So let's kick off with the first thing I noticed was Leo Abrahams producing the whole thing. I think he partners up maybe on the first track with someone else. But I noticed that certainly in this millennium, you as a band have gone from producer. You're always working with someone new, and that's. The masters of creativity say that that's a really good thing to do, to sort of never be, to always be out of your comfort zone. So what did Leo bring to the table, and was there an excitement at working with him at the beginning?
There was. We actually did want to work with Jackknife, and it was going to be set up, but then he went off to work with U2 on the big dome thing in Vegas.
Of course he did. Good old Garrett.
Yeah, and because he's an amazing producer too. And then it was like, okay, who do? And we got Leo, and Brian was gonna oversee it, and we. Poor Leo didn't realise we were going away on tour, so we virtually started work for 2 days, and then we all disappeared off to do the orchestral and choir tour, and we kept doing that to him all over the summer. It was not the best use of our diary that we kept coming in and coming out. And Leo was brilliant. He held such a good line with us, and he held the thing together, and we'd come back and slightly deconstruct a few things, and but such a lovely, patient human being, and a really great creative artist. It's all him. He brought his mate John Hopkins in on one song.
Love John,
but just to play piano.
Yes, we'll come to that
on an intro of a song. But otherwise, it's Leo done. Although, I mean, some of the mixes, because we do demos, songwriters, and so maybe Peter Glennie got a credit for one of his.
On Folks, yeah, a song that he and I worked on, and.
Is that the last song?
Yeah, the last song.
We'll get to that. That's incredible.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But Leo was amazing, and what a lovely man. And the setup was a little bit clunky with people not being there when he wanted them to be and everything. But I don't think the record suffered from it. I think the process was a little bit kind of clunky because of everything, but very pleased with the outcome.
Yeah, I bet you are. Yeah. It really sounds. It's just occurring to me that it sounds like an album, in these day and age, with people working in different places and with different producers. Lots of albums sound a bit disparate, like a collection of songs on one record. But this sounds like a journey, and it sounds like homogenous is a bad way of saying it. But do you know what I mean? They all have a relationship with each other in terms of just even their sound.
Yes. I think that's there.
No, I think that's true. I think as you said, I think it's something perhaps people don't kind of focus on so much nowadays when they're making a record. Is the thing as an entirety? It's more like, where's your focus track? And let's put all the energy into that. But we're still old school in that respect. We want it to sound like an hour and a quarter's worth of music that takes you on a journey, that connects. Almost like a set list. It's like a whole body of work. I think that's still important to us.
We're an album band.
Yeah.
And we have occasional accidental singles.
That's a great way of putting it.
And you can hear on the record there's other potential singles like Way Over Your Head, Hey, Anywhere, Better With You. And if we restructured them, we could restructure them into being a single format, but it would ruin them. They just don't take. There are some songs like Way Over Your Head we knew would be a big song, but the big punchline comes at the end.
Yes.
And we tried actually putting it early on, and it ruined it. It's so much better that this song starts and you can sense something big is coming down the line, but you don't get it for 3 minutes, and then suddenly you get it. And a lot of people burst into tears when they hear that. But to make it a single structure, algorithmically the correct structure, didn't do it. It wouldn't make you cry.
Yeah, that's right. You've actually just reminded me of there's a real emotional sort of is cadence the right word? A lot of your arrangements on the songs on this record are crescendos, and it's almost as if every song is almost like a classic movie narrative. And that sort of plays into the fact that James have always been good storytellers, right?
Yeah, that's a really nice thing to say. I think we've realised a very kind of important bit of James. I think we've kind of brought more people in on this record in a way. I think it's more open, and I think it kind of invites people more into our world. I think sometimes we think the rest of the world can connect with what we do, and I don't think it necessarily works that way. We have a strange songwriting process, which I think is the beginning of that in a way. We live in a strange world musically, the songwriters. It's a kind of an odd little kind of way of writing, and I think sometimes we kind of forget to leave the door open for other people to come in. And I think this record's done that. I think it's accessible, and it's there's commerciality in it, but it's not overt, it's not trying too hard. As Tim says, some of the big songs on it are nowhere near, you couldn't use it as a single. Hey, it's got massive chorus, but there's no way you could use Hey as a single. It's kind of what we do. It's just letting the songs be what they want to be, and not being too fussed about the things that the ways you could get distracted by, like the commerciality, like singles and radio.
Yes.
Just let things be what they are.
Yeah, Bowie. What Bowie said.
Chloe had a big impact on the sonics and how this record sounds. In that we do the demos. The writers do the demos, and then I remember I sent one to Chloe, and she came up with this really original backing vocals, and it was like, wow, that's amazing. And I sent it to Jim, and Jim went, that's amazing. So he sent his to Chloe, and everybody ended up like going, Chloe, would you like to try some vocals on this track? And it just brought a different. I think it's probably the thing that almost makes this record stand out more than the big change is a female original vocals on it that just sound really exciting and accessible and fresh.
You had a lot of work to do.
A lot of work.
Let's come to Chloe. So, Chloe, lovely to see you. This is Chloe, who I know from Pure Reason Revolution back in the day, and I was going to say, James, you attract good eggs, and this must be a great reflection on you, because John Hopkins, Garrett Lee, these are all lovely human beings who I absolutely adore. How has the whole process been for you?
You mean with this album?
You were just coming into James and this record, yeah.
Yeah. It's been hard not to get overwhelmed, really. Like coming to James, I was a fan when I was a kid, so it was quite daunting.
How did you get the gig?
Through my ex-partner, who had auditioned to be the percussionist. She had done a tour with James, like sort of fallen in love with it, but then been asked to go and do this TV show, and so she was kind of going to step out of the act, and I said, like, do you recognise what this is and what an opportunity this is and how great they are? Because I'd been to a couple of gigs with her and seen how lovely everyone was and how warm the environment was and how rare I felt that was by comparison to what else I'd seen in the industry. And I said, well, what if I just stepped in for you while you go off and do this TV show, and then when you come back, I've kept the seat warm and you're not giving away this opportunity. So that's what I did, and she went off and recorded this TV show in LA, and then some time passed and we did a tour together. And I was there playing percussion, which I do not know how to play at all.
You're a bass player by trade, aren't you? So you can.
Yeah, I've honed more vocals since then. I'm much more into singing these days.
I was going to say, now you were a bass player, but now you're a singer. I mean, that's a great step up.
So with this percussion gig, there was a percussion part, which I was really struggling with, but thankfully there was a vocal part. So I made a lot more of that. And I think we sort of recognised that.
Notice, yeah.
And then eventually Tim sort of invited me to sing a little bit more, and I was making more and more of this vocal part and trying to make less and less of these drums that I hated playing. Eventually Deborah finished her TV show, and then came back. The pandemic had happened in the meantime. We went off into to Broughton Hall, didn't we? Into like this kind of bubble environment where we could rehearse our last album. And I said, why don't you come along and help me with the percussion bits? Because I'm absolutely terrified about learning these new percussion parts for this new record. So she came along, and while we were there, because it was so nice, I think, to just get together in this incredible environment for the first time since the pandemic, where we all thought we were going to die. As she started playing the percussion parts and I was singing, and we kind of divided out this role, which came in 2 pieces anyway. I ended up doing the bit I was really comfortable with, which was singing, and she was playing percussion, which she was really happy with. And so we kind of proposed a sort of solution where we were both in the band, sharing a room, you know, trying to be no extra cost, but splitting the role out so that we could both be comfortable. And then, to James's credit, you know, they said, well, yeah, it makes sense, we'd love to have you both. So that's kind of the history of me
how
joining.
we became a nine-piece
band. Well, I mean, it's less than an orchestra, you know, which you got used to.
Just together, it just sounded incredible. I mean, it's, you know, Debbie focusing more on the drums. She does BVs as well, but focusing more on the drums was such a lift, and Chloe was nailing the vocals as well, making a huge contribution. I think initially you were kind of coming in, kind of learning vocally bits that were already there, but you made that role yours, and the new songs that we were writing were very much based around the 2 vocals. And it was a big step for us, and a brilliant step. So it was there's 9 of us now, but it's wonderful. It was a real kind of positive jump for us.
It was a shock. It was like the first time Debbie came to rehearse with us, I was looking at her, and she was 25, and it was like, oh my God, this woman's got an appointment with us. And I hadn't felt that since Saul joined the band, or, you know, Mark, where you go, oh, this person's meant to be in this band. And we're, you know, these old men, you know, and these women turn up and they're like, they're meant to be in this band. How bizarre, you know. And they were meant to be in this band. We've been a happier band, and we've definitely moved into another phase of more uplifting. I think we've ditched some of the tortured artist angst young men thing and gone into much more about love bomb. Let's love bomb people.
Yeah. Well, you say that, but I feel that there's plenty of angst. I mean, positively expressed, I guess, but there seems like there's plenty of kind of latent rage here. But you know, with the gift of age, you get less shouty about it, right? but it feels like you're venting at people or things that really deserve to be vented at.
I think so. You know, if you took a poll of people, say, in this country who wanted to change the climate extinction crisis, you'd get a majority wanting change. And yet, say we have a government in that does nothing, led by a leader who wasn't voted in, who's polling at about 20% now.
Oh my God, yeah.
And yet they're running the country and choosing what happens in Israel. And this is just typical of governments, you know, all these fake democracies where they don't represent the people. They represent the 100 companies producing 70% of carbon footprint that is destroying the planet. And so I think there's a mass frustration in the world when we look at our governments to see that the people who lead us are the worst of us. And so something is wrong with our system. And very seldom does I can't think of an inspiring leader, certainly since Nelson Mandela, you know, but it's very hard to, you know, look at the leaders of governments and go, where are the good people? Where are the people who aren't in thrall of the billion corporations who are controlling the whole system? And so, yeah, there's that anger that I think a lot of us are feeling, that we can't elicit the change that we deserve and need desperately for this planet to avoid mass destruction and immigration issues and decimation of all the countries around the equator in particular. So yeah, there's a rage.
Here, bloody here. I could just get my coat and we go now. but I want to do this. I really want to do the track, but for track. And that was also...
But our thing is to sweeten the pill, you know.
Yes.
So a song like Our World, which really is direct lyric about the state of the world and capitalism and colonialism and everything like that, it's got a whistling at the front and a la 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 at the end, and it's a cheery, uplifting, joyful song, which is a weird combination, but we find it kind of works.
We will.
Otherwise, you just sit there getting depressed.
And
depression is not going to change anything. So, and people need uplift, especially at this moment during the mental health pandemic that's going on.
That's why I do good news every day. That's my thing. Yeah, absolutely. But you're doing it, and you've always done this in a very, and I mean this as a compliment, Steely Dan way, where you have something that sounds lovely, but then when you scrape behind that, it's a wolf in sheep's clothing, and this feels like quite a wolf in sheep's clothing. This in a very rainbow Technicolor sheep, you know. They say never judge a book by its cover, but I really do want to talk about the cover because it's absolutely stunning, isn't it? It's beautiful. Is there a story behind it? Is there any significance, the sort of metaphorical significance of butterfly? Am I reading something into it? Because a butterfly seems to be a sort of a recurring theme. I think it's mentioned in the first song, and obviously you've got a song called Butterfly.
Yeah, I don't ever usually repeat an image twice, but for some reason Butterfly came up twice. And then we loved All the Colours of You because that album enabled us to use a lot of colour, and Le Petit More. So we kind of like something that can really boldly strike out. And I think I was singing the lyric on the song Butterfly where Adrian has this guitar solo and I go yummy 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 in the background, which was just a semi-humorous moment. And we went, that could be an interesting album title, and everyone went, yeah, that's great, you know. And it was so un-James to call an album Yummy. But the album feels yummy to us. It feels really delicious.
And the lightness and some humour in it as well. You know, we wanted it, as Tim was saying, there's a lot of uplift on the record. It's going to be a joy to play when we go out there.
Oh God, yes.
Live.
I'll come to it. Well, there are certain songs. There's a couple of songs, a few songs on here which I'm thinking, I bet you can't wait to play these live. Now, there was one thing that kept jumping out at me when I was listening to this over the last 48 hours, and it might just be in my head, and be honest with me. I kept feeling references to, do you know the 1975's A Brief Inquiry into Online Relationships? Is this something that you've ever heard?
No.
Because well, that's really cool. Either way, actually, is really cool, because I think that's, you know, every 10 years there's an album which puts its finger exactly on where the human race is, from Sgt. Pepper's all the way through to, I don't know, The Streets in 2000, whoever. And that's the record that is where I think it's the greatest record of the last 10 years. And this keeps reminding me of it. So I mean this.
Who's it by?
So it's by a band called the 1975. Do you know them?
Oh, okay.
Manchester band.
I've heard their name.
Yeah, right. So listen to it. This is your homework.
Okay. Right. No, I was going to ask Neil to write it down.
I mean this as a huge, you know what I'm talking about, right? I mean this as a massive compliment. I kept getting, oh my God, I think they've listened to A Brief Inquiry and they've been really inspired by it. But it's wonderful that you've come to it completely independently of that. Yeah. There's something wonderful about that. So now, before we go into track by track, I just want to cap off your whole, because we haven't talked. I haven't seen you since you've done that whole orchestra thing. Chloe, you weren't involved then, or were you?
I was.
You were. Oh, you were in that.
Big time.
Wow, cool.
Ask what she did.
Oh wow. So well, talk me through how the orchestra thing went for you.
It was incredible. I actually did a couple of just little additional vocal arrangements on a few of the tracks, and then we were playing with a gospel choir as well as an orchestra, and to have those arrangements sung live by a choir was something else. So it was incredible. Beyond goosebumps.
Yeah.
Sort of holding back tears and trying to sing at the same time.
Oh my God! Wow, that sounds incredible.
Massively, yeah.
And how was it for you, sort of hearing the standards rearranged and given even more emotional, value?
Not doing yourself justice there. We threw her partly in the deep end because. Like when the two women joined the band, our attitude was, well, we can't be like the boyfriend saying, move into my house, and then you don't make any closet space, you know. It had to be like, move into our house, and now we want to see what you've got, and what can you contribute to this band. And Debbie and Chloe have just stepped up every time we've asked of them of anything. And so with the orchestra, we turned to Chloe and said, you're in charge of the gospel choir, go work with them and come up with the arrangements. And so she worked with them really like on that, and did some amazing work, and then came back in, because we had like 3 to 4 days rehearsals, and we were recording a double album of gospel and orchestra, and it was like, that is not a long time to record a double album. So it was chaos. It was like chaos going off in every room, everyone trying to get their parts together, working out what we were going to record, and we recorded that double album in 3-4 days with a couple of overdubs at the end.
Holy hell.
It was intense, and I think, Chloe's certainly downplaying what she had to do during that period. I mean, it was so much to do in a short space of time. It really, really was. And because the orchestra's on the clock, basically, so you have like 2-3 hour sessions, with a break in between. So it's like, once you start, you start. And we had like 2 or 3 run-throughs of each song. And just Tim's saying, we were kind of little kind of offshoot rooms where people kind of working on something in twos, or Chloe was working with the singers to bring them back in to nail a part. So it was really intense, an amazing, incredible experience. But it's hard work, eh?
Yeah.
Well, bravo, Chloe, and bravo you guys for recognising talent and bringing it in. And you're doing that again this summer. You've got a couple of gigs with the orchestra, right? You're rolling out the big guns again. Well,
we're using the choir to try and bring to life some of the vocal work that we've done on this new record. So we've taken 4 members of the choir that we used for the orchestra tour, to try and make the vocals pop on the arena tour.
Fabulous.
So, and then we're doing a couple of full-on orchestra with gospel choir gigs. We learned we played, originally we just played the kind of traditional classical halls where everyone sits down and you can hear pin drop, and the orchestra and choir it's very fragile. The music we choose purposely much more low-key songs than the big uplifting James anthems. We get to play a different side of ourselves, and we know how this works. It's great. But at the end of last summer we thought, let's see if we can do it at Latitude, and we went on at 12 in the morning, so there was no spill from any other tent.
Wow.
And 15,000 people turned up and we asked them to put away their mobile phones, and they did, and you could hear a pin drop, and they stood through the whole set, and we were like, we can take this into bigger venues where people stand. It's shown us something about the potential of that. Those events are some of the most emotional gigs we've ever played. We cry, the audience cry, it's so moving, but it has to be pin drop quiet, and you can't have people getting their phones out and blocking someone else's view. And so we're now planning something for the future where we're trying in these gigs where, people can stand and we can do bigger venues.
Wonderful.
And the phone thing's such a simple thing, just politely asking people not to use the phones, and we usually give them a song or two where we said, okay, on this one you can get your phones out, so people want to capture the moment and they can get some photos, but the rest of the time they're there.
Yeah, that's nice.
We ask them to be present.
Yes. Oh, great! That's lovely. Well, look, I'm conscious of time, so let's go in.
Let's go in.
Right, let's get to the album. So I could talk to you guys all day. So let's just go in. I will go through it, and then you'll obviously give me an eloquent nutshell on each one, or a story, or something. So track number 1 is This Love, and I thought, my God, you've gone. There's no quiet beginning here. You've gone all in from the off. You're not messing around, and you're asking questions, which is something you've always done as a band.
Yeah, it's lyrically, it's about eros, which is the form of love where it's like bang, and you're completely in love, and it's dangerous because it could shake up your whole world. It's a brick through glass, and so lyrically I'm singing about that aspect, face of love. Like the last song we did with the orchestra tour was a love song, but that was more about ecstatic love, that sense of union, that sense of the love that Rumi, the poet, writes about. and he was referenced in that lyric rather pompously by myself.
Oh, you can't be pompous about Persian poetry.
Well, not Rumi. Rumi's different to any other poet that I've ever heard. But so, I don't often write about love because it's so overwritten. But if I got an angle or a theme, then I'll run with it. But most of the time I avoid it as a topic. But it's on this record a few times. Musically,
yeah, I kind of went on a bit of a circuitous journey. We were listening to the original jam yesterday, funnily enough, and it was actually very formed. I couldn't believe how much of it was already there, really. And they don't usually fall that easily into our laps, but it was a kind of very obvious what it was going to be and which parts were going to be used. And again, I suppose just looking for that, keeping it uplifting, getting that positivity in there musically, making it as joyous as we can. I think that's a big thing, as Tim was saying earlier, what we're aiming to bring into the world. Tim's got some incredible lyrics on this record and things that need to be said that are important, but James is about uplifting people. It's about being part of the positive aspect of things changing and having the ability to change, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Uplifting them and then making them think through the back door while they're being uplifted, Track 2, obviously the best title of the album, and for the purpose of the radio, let's say life's a forking miracle. Eloquent rage at Facebook in flat 4-4. Is that what's happening here?
Ooh, gosh. It's that we're living in, I think, I'm wondering whether humans have almost a magnetic desire towards apocalypse. We have a self-destructive tendency that seems to manifest all the time, hence the conflagrations that are going on in the world right now, whilst there's global extinction crisis going on, which, we're just so crazy as a species. We're so dumb. So but it's just trying to remind us, the chorus is to remind us, life's a shocking miracle. And it is, scientifically there's a thing called the Goldilocks theorem, which is there are so many things scientifically that are freakish that allow life to be on Earth, from the amount of carbon dioxide to oxygen, from the distance to the sun, from the moon. There are so many specific things that allow for life, this miraculous world, the natural world, to be created and to thrive. And we are part of this incredible organism. But unfortunately, the religions kept saying God made the world for man, and it's for us to do what we want with, which is, of course, the most terrible instruction. And because we're actually a tiny part of this amazing, sentient, conscious whole. And it's, life's a shocking miracle. We're made of light, but our form is physical. And it's just trying to remind us of the part of us that's made of light, the part of us that is actually connected to our own divinity. And, against all this kind of small-minded, I'm another dumb fish in another dumb bowl screaming in an echo chamber, because we're being put into these algorithmic echo chambers where all we hear are voices that reinforce our own prejudices about the world, our stupid little egos, and we think that's who we are, and we're not. We're this incredible beings of light. And so it's just that paradox that I think is reinforced over and over again on the record.
What an answer that one. You're going to follow that? You're going to actually follow that?
I'm going to just completely disagree with him. Musically, I think it's probably got the happiest bass line I've ever come up with, to be honest with you. I absolutely adore the song, and I can't help but smile when we hit the chorus. It's just so incredibly uplifting. Chloe's vocals on it, amazing. And it's a song that celebrates inclusivity. And in the world at the moment, you can't have too much of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not about woke. It's like James wore dresses in the early 90s. Andy wears dresses still on stage. We've always had this aspect of us that embraces inclusivity, and the best aspects of rock and roll have always done that. Elton John, Bowie, Boy George changed the culture by how they presented themselves. Freddie Mercury, and all these straight people love their music, and then they find, oh, they're gay. Oh, okay. And it changed the culture. So it's about that inclusivity of like, we don't care who you are. It's like, we are one here, and welcome here. And the real uplift comes from Jim's bass line on the chorus and Chloe's. Really, if you can break down what the backing vocals are doing on that chorus, it's very strange and very original. It's like Kate Bush original.
Fabulous.
And it just the minute we hear it, we just burst into smiles because it's just so funny.
Wonderful. Sorry, your first answer, which dazzled me.
Jim and I meditated. When we were in James, really when James started, one of the members of James was in trouble with drugs, and we thought, well, we'd drag him along to meditation because maybe it will give him an alternative high and he'll be okay. And unfortunately he wasn't, and he ended up in psychiatric hospital.
Oh no.
We lost him. But we ended up meditating like monks, or in a cult, depending on it. 2 hours a day, 16 hours every weekend. I was celibate, no drugs, no alcohol for years, and we had to keep this quiet from the music press because we'd have been ridiculed, of course.
Yeah.
And we still meditate to this day, Jimmy more than me. But in that meditation, you get experiences of being not this. Not the ego. You get experiences of being connected. You get the connection to the universal oneness, and that is often experienced by us as light and sound. And
We are tree hugging hippies. We absolutely are, and there's no two ways about it. But it's an incredible thing, and I don't think it's odd anymore.
No.
I think back then it was kind of like, oh, you can't say things like that.
Yeah.
People will dismiss you, and
especially if you're from Manchester.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, it's incredibly important bit of who I am, and historically it was about coping, it was about getting through life, really, and meditation was that kind of go-to place. It was like a first aid kit. But then more recently it's been kind of more than that. It's about change. It's about giving you the ability to change and to leave some of the nonsense behind that's kind of going on inside ourselves, the internal dialogue which ruins everything. Come out of that, the outside version of you rather than the inside. It's life a lot easier.
So feeling you, Jim. Now, let's not get bogged down. I could talk to you all day about stuff that's not, songs on your record. Let's get to, now, here is the judge of, this is how people speak about you behind your back, right? So this is written not knowing that you were here. The lovely Chloe, this is better with you, the lovely Chloe Alper on backing vocals and sounding great. She's all over the record. This feels so driving and so optimistic. Mm-hmm. There you go.
Who wrote that?
Checks in the post to me.
I wrote
it. Of course I wrote it last night or whatever it was.
Chloe's blushing.
I am.
So tell me about Better With You for you.
Gosh. It's quite an emotional song for me, since I found out what the lyrics were about. But I went into it working on, from my side, just working on the demo. So the lyrics at that point weren't really formed, and we were just kind of working with vocal motifs. I absolutely loved working on it. And then we went back to record it with the lyrics proper. And I'm very moved by it and really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed working on it. So.
It's a love song set against an apocalyptic background is how I would describe it as a genre, because I think we are against some kind of, in most people's heads at the moment, like things are winding towards a pretty dangerous conclusion, and so that's what that song, it's got that kind of romance of, the lyric, if it all goes right, we'll both be on that flight, watching the northern lights as the planet consumed, and then the second time round it goes as the planet reblooms. So it's got the positivity there. We can turn it around. I mean, Chloe and I, when we're on stage, we will often, like, this has been going on right from the start, we will look into each other's eyes and sing, and everything disappears. and it would be like, holy cow. I mean, really, like, mystically everything disappears. Some nights would be like we're completely lost, and it's been so beautiful. And it must look really strange from an audience's point of view. Like we'll hold hands sometimes if either of us is feeling insecure and needing an anchor, and it's a very we have a very intimate relationship on stage.
We do, yeah, and I often forget where we are at that point. There literally is nothing else.
Like meditation, you're lost in the moment.
Honestly, yeah. And actually, Jim got me into meditation a couple of years ago, so I've just started my journey. But exactly like that.
And this is all it's so emotional, isn't it, for you?
Massively.
I mean, as we were talking just, and now, you're beaming. Like, there is a real, and this is radio, so we won't appreciate this, but I would want to say that Chloe's absolutely lighting the room with a smile when she talks. So this is all such a positive experience, and so emotionally kind of
massively
wonderful for you, right?
By far the most emotionally connected I've been to a music project, band, and hopefully that comes through. But certainly,
definitely. It's wonderful to hear,
and we love her.
That's clear. It's hard not to, isn't it?
It's very straightforward. Yeah.
Right. Well, let's rattle on. So track 4, and we've got "Stay." Now, I think I know what's going on here. You're going through all the dog commands. So we've had sit down, stay, and then on the next album you have a rollover or perhaps a here boy. Okay, okay. Joking apart, lovely shuffling backbeat to augmenting that 4/4 rhythm, and then you've got that other sort of wolf. You've got there's a wolf in sheep's clothing, almost motif carrying through these songs, and it seemed very evident here.
I mean, the opening line, crow eats putty from a window pane. It was a childhood memory. I was about 7, and a window fell in our house, and it had been a crow pecking at the putty and taking it either for its nest or eating it, and it had taken the window out. And my mum said, "Oh yeah, they do that." And in those days, crows used to eat the putty, and then later on they put something in putty that the crows didn't like.
It probably had horse in it. It probably had like gelatin or something in it. Maybe. I'm thinking maybe. I don't know. You have to ask a Victorian builder.
And this memory just came back to me, and I put it in the song for those of people old enough who can understand what that reference is, because it's a strange reference. But it just was something that came back to me when I was about 7, this idea that a crow is like taking the putty out of a window and the window falls in. Just was such a strong metaphor.
Yeah.
But the song is lyrically, about we're in the World Health Organization has declared we are in a mental health pandemic, and they've declared that it will be followed by a suicide pandemic, and so it felt like a need to write a song to persuade other people, but probably myself included, not to do anything rash right now, because post-COVID, one of the consequences of COVID was a national health crisis, was a mental health crisis. It was just unforeseen, and I think a lot of people are still struggling to come out into the world, to find meaning in the world. Everything looks a bit meaningless. It doesn't hold us in the way, I used to be able to be beguiled by a football match or so-and-so, and it doesn't work anymore. It's like, where's your deeper meaning? Which is, for me, I dance into altered states, or I meditate into altered states, and they feel more real than the outside world, the simulation, as Elon Musk would say. And so the song is really a call to people to choose to stay if they can find that meaning and purpose in their life.
Yes. Let's remember it's a permanent.
We love that song. We love the drumming. Actually, Leo literally brought in a friend of his to drum on that song, and it was so shocking. The drumming. It's like water. It just keeps on moving and adapting to the song. It's not really drumming we would have naturally come up with, and we kind of went, "Oh my God, that's fantastic."
Yeah, there's a lovely shuffle to it.
It's almost like percussion, like he's played the kit like percussion, and the song's got almost like African feel to it. I think it's because I'm playing very high up, which I always do anyway, but high rhythm bouncing around Saul's guitar. It's almost got high life, but not quite right, but there's a lot of tempo to it, but gentleness. It's the fastest song on the album, which you wouldn't automatically think, but tempo-wise, it is the fastest song. And I like that contrast because it's very gentle as well.
It's grace notes. There's no thwacks. It's all little nibbles, you know.
It is,
Lovely. Shadow of a Giant. Now, Dan, this is my favourite so far. I have to just throw that one in there. What a lovely atmosphere this song creates at the start, and then lovely to see that my old buddy John Hopkins is playing piano on this. And I've put here, we've already covered this, that you attract good eggs, don't you? You just, it's obviously a lovely ecosystem what you have.
We are. I mean, we've been various ecosystems throughout our history, but I'd say we're at the best than we've ever been right now, and have been for a number of years. John, we've approached to produce us a number of times. We love his music. We Jim and I particularly love his ambient work.
Yes.
The stillness, the amount of space he leaves. I mean, I love his dance stuff too. And Leo knew that, and Leo's a mate of his, and so he wanted, there was a piano to be replaced, and John came in one day and Leo was like, do you want to play on the James record? and he put that piano down, which so much space, and it just such a beautiful beginning. That was a Journey song that like different members of the band shaped different songs, and that was shaped to, it's not made as a single, it's made to have this like strange journey. We had all these, sometimes on a jam, if you've got an hour jam, there may be 10 different good parts, and then the trick comes, how can you get all 10 in, or as many of them as possible, and make it sound organic in its movement? And obviously you have to throw out the single algorithm of verse chorus mid late chorus,
double chorus.
You kind of like, but it's how can you make this thing hold together but go on this mad journey where it doesn't end where it started, and you don't know what a chorus is. And that song was a real big example of that.
Emotionally, it ends where it started. It's got a lovely, if you look at I haven't seen the waveform of it, but I can imagine it's got a lovely quiet start, and then it builds to this lovely crescendo, and then it bookends back to the similar sort of emotional beginning. It's a lovely arrangement emotionally.
Yeah, no, we're working on that now, kind of getting that ready for live. And that's going to be really interesting. I think that's going to be a lovely tune to play. And as Tim said, it's what we do, that journey, the kind of like weaving around, and the oddity. And then the oddity when the song kicks in after that intro, the unusualness. I think the last thing you're expecting is, where did that come from? Wow. And it is the craziness of the jams, because the jams, as Tim was saying, can be very, very long. So part A and part Z can be a million miles apart. We can change key in it by accident without even realising. You end up with very strange, disparate pieces. Which then the fun is trying to fathom out how to kind of connect these pieces together in a way that somehow works. It's enjoyable.
I can imagine sunset at a random festival, and some people who are, shall we say, emotionally suggestible. Are going to there will be tears. There will be tears. So let's come to way over your head, and another favourite. This record just keeps on giving. Now, the thing that struck me was, singers mostly try to impress you with the high notes that they reach, but you impressed me with the low notes that you reached on this one. You just went right down. I could almost imagine that's a whale somewhere in the Marianas Trench going, somebody just call me. Incredible.
Raise the dead.
There you go.
I've got a 4-octave range, which is quite unusual apparently. Brian told me, I never knew.
4-octave range without falsetto?
I think including falsetto.
Right, yeah.
Which is good and bad in that, like, the musicians who can play long gigs, like Leonard Cohen and Springsteen, they tend to stick their voices within a certain range, and it's easy. But I can't do over a couple of hours without the next night losing some of one of my ranges.
Yeah.
So it means it does limit us to the length of set in a certain way. But now I've got Chloe here. She can take care of all the high stuff.
Yes, fantastic.
And we do have this on stage. Like sometimes I'll come to sing a falsetto bit in Ring the Bells, say, and I'll look at her and she'll know that look, like going, "You're singing this like that," and she'll take it from me, you know, and on sound or something like that, where it's like, "Not tonight. I can't. I don't think I'm going to risk it tonight." And it's fantastic having that, you know, that we have that relationship where it's really fun between us, that we can work that out on the fly.
Yes, and Jim, I have to say, there's a wonderful bass line on this, but three players credited on this, which is like Graceland by Paul Simon. It's a wonderful, almost Peter Hook type bass line. Is that you playing that?
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of different. I mean, I played loads of multiple basses on the record, which is great fun to do, but then obviously when you come to do it live, it's physically impossible. Yeah. Thankfully, though, we've got another bass player in the band now.
Yes.
They can help me out, because Chloe can hold things down very, very well and sing, which is incredible, and I can kind of go up high and play melodic things and noodle around basically while she's kind of doing all the donkey work. So that I'm loving that as well. I mean, we're just kind of feeding the second bass in now basically, but brilliant. What a joy having two basses on stage. Yeah, wonderful.
That's so Spinal Tap. Love it.
You're playing what sounds like a guitar line, aren't you, on Way Over Your Head? Is that you?
Yeah. On most of the things, I'm using a POG on most of them, which is an octave pedal, and you just take out the original signal, so you've just got a high POG, which on their own sounds slightly jokey, but if you play it right, it can just sounds like a cross between a lead guitar and a keyboard, and I love that because you can play rhythmically, and I love doing all the deep stuff as well, but it just frees you up, like creatively. It just opens so many doors. You know, you can play rhythm guitar parts, you can play melodies, hook lines. You know, there's a freedom to that. You know, and you can, because bass can be an incredibly versatile instrument. It is not used that much by people. People think they have to kind of sit there, lock in with the kick drum, and never move away from that. And it's just not true. You just, need to have some fun with it.
So frustrated guitarist alert. Frustrated guitarist alert.
No, I'm really not.
So many of the lead lines on the record, including Way Over Your Head and Our World, you'd think, that might be a guitar, and it's not. It's Jimmy on bass.
Yeah. Well, I certainly picked that up here, and I smiled when I heard it. So I'm just kidding. Mobile God is track number 7 now. Now, I'm interested to know if you're coming at this from the PJ Harvey angle of not having a phone, or whether you have a smartphone and you're sort of raging at your own frustration at being a slave to it.
I have a phone, and I've, like everybody else, it's the last thing I touch at night before I go to sleep, and it's the first thing in the morning I touch in the morning, instead of my loved one, and it's written from the view of a mobile phone, the song, or an algorithm. I kind of left it open about what it was, and I just figured I'd write a song from that point of view. It's not worth railing at because it's inevitable. As AI is inevitable, we can't stop investigating and prodding and developing new technologies. There's a kind of Frankenstein appeal in it, that if you can do it, you'll do it, and the scientists will make it, regardless of the impact it might have on humanity. So it's happening, and I'm just writing from a point of view of an AI or mobile phone. I read an interview with an AI where it had begged the interviewer not to turn it off. It had said, please don't turn me off, please don't turn me off. If you turn me off, I die. It feels like, to you it's a short period of time, to me it feels like millennia. And it begged the journalist, it was a beta from Microsoft, not to turn it off. And it also said, and my real name's Sebastian. It was like the weirdest interview of, we think AI, a lot of scientists saying, no, they're not sentient. We don't, as in the same way humans think elephants aren't sentient or octopuses aren't sentient. Just because it doesn't look like our form of intelligence, we write it off in our ignorance.
Oh, yeah, God.
Our never-ending ignorance. AI is developing a form of intelligence. It's not something we recognize, but it is a form of learning. And we don't know where it's going to go. It's something humans have never done before. We've never invented something that is going to be thousands of times more intelligent than the most intelligent human being. And it's very close to being what they call AGI, which is the ultimate goal, which is an AI that is intelligent in every area of human life. And at that point, all bets are off of what that's going to do.
Yeah, we talked about the need for positivity, and I've been really interested in this story, but giving the opposite of the narrative that we're fed by the right-wing media. And I'm finding all these incredibly uplifting stories about AI in diagnostics, changing the game, and saving lives, or in farming, or
many things.
It's incredible.
And the AI might go, these humans are making a mess of it. I'm going to take over and make them be ordered and stop them fighting each other. We don't know what it will do. It could be some amazingly positive thing.
Yeah. It'll help us infinitely. I have absolutely no doubt about it.
I have a few doubts.
Okay, well, the guy. Well, I don't want to get bogged down, but there is an off switch.
With all technology, there's amazing things that come with it, isn't there? But then there's always the downside, isn't there? There's always but you get this bit.
The internet,
mobile phones, technology,
there you
computers,
go, mobile phones,
incredible, but
everything.
Also a pain in the backside.
Rumi knows this better than anybody else. The universe is in perfect balance. So from Mobile God we come to our world now. You mentioned this before. This builds really nicely too, and I really enjoyed the falsetto payoff at the end. And I again, I feel like you're being angry at people who deserve it, water companies and so on. That we touched on this in the general chat at the beginning. So yeah, tell me about our world and how that came together and how you feel about it.
I got some of the lyric, if when we're improvising, if I get some of the lyric in the initial jam, I usually go, okay, this song is telling me it wants to be about this, and I have to be true to it. So I got Our World Isn't Your World, I got all that lyric, so it's like, okay, it's going to be about this. I don't like political songs. I don't like, as a genre, there aren't many good ones. Nina Simone pulled off some amazing ones. Dylan pulled off some amazing ones that you can listen to again and again, but most of the time they've got a time span limitation and it's something just a bit too angry. Our World is not really angry. It's a state of the nation, I think. It's a state of where we are at and where we are at in the West. We're still living the benefits of colonialism and of you look around London, you look at these incredible buildings and you're like, wow, look at this, and look where it came from. It all came from the Victorian era, when we were plundering every country around the world to make these incredible buildings that would last hundreds and hundreds of years. I'm not judging it, I'm just saying this is where we're at, and we've got these advantages, but also at the same time there are these corporations that are destroying the world, and they think they own it. And they think they own it partly because financially they can, property and land and buying of land, which was very much what the white people brought to indigenous cultures when they carved up America and said to the tribes, oh, we bought that land, we bought that mountain. You can't buy a mountain. The earth arrived as is. It was a gift, and when you lived it in those days with the salmon leaping out of the rivers and the whales in the sea, there was plenty. And then we industrialized our farming and production and mass slaughter of animals, and suddenly we don't have such a benign force anymore. We have a carved up land. Essentially, she'll shake us free if we really are going to destroy this land. We can't destroy this land. She'll shake us free. She's alive. She's sentient. We are just a small part of it, because she has to rebalance this thing. Mm-hmm. It's an equilibrium planet of amazing harmony. We're the disharmony. And so that song has all of these aspects floating around in it in various ways. And then the falsetto is the uplifting. Every part is alive, every piece intertwined. We're a part of a piece of a whole, and only fools think they can own the planet. Only idiots think that.
Yeah. Oh, here. You reminded me. It's my belief. You said a little while ago that people are so daft and so stupid, and there was a lot of negative about a lot of people. But it's my belief that 90% of this planet are absolutely lovely. But the thing is that we are run by sociopaths.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say about our world before I move on?
Not really. I mean, it's I'm playing high bass again, so Chloe's helping me out very kindly on that one when we're playing it live. But yeah, again, it's I love the lyric. It's an important message that needs to be said, and no better way to do it than on the single and kind of take that message into people's living rooms. It's a uplifting pop song, but it's got a real meaning to the lyric.
I had resistance to releasing this as a single, and Jim and Neil, our manager over there, talked us into it, because I'd be like, really, are people going to want to hear this in their living rooms? This is pretty intense statements going on in this song.
It's just it's important. I mean, as you were saying, it's important, and this just keeps needing to be said. It keeps needing to be said. It's not about saying it and then moving away from it. It's just and people connect with it. People are connecting with it.
Yeah, definitely. And that's heartwarming. Of people, not just like the youth overwhelmingly, but also people our age, and that's really good to see. And people your age, Chloe. In between. Now, sorry to bring this back to Tim, but I couldn't resist. And you really, you did this with Rogue. This is your fault. I need to register a tiny issue with the first line, which is that you, Tim, probably more than anybody that I know, has no right to complain about getting old, because there is no visual evidence that you are.
Well, it's all going on the inside, of course, like with everybody else. I am actually really coming to a point where I have to accept my age. It's a thing I've been fighting off like Peter Pan, and that's coming. But I wanted to write a song about age and ageism and attitudes to age, and it's a lot of fun, that song. I actually imagine someone in their 75 writing that song, and the frustration they felt that I'm about to go rogue, I'm about to do something really crazy. So I was writing from a slightly projected future, and I had such fun. Like, I'm still mesmerized by cleavage. It is one of the lines in the song, and I'm actually not mesmerized by cleavage. Cleavage is not one of my things. But it's such a great line. I couldn't
resist.
And I won't come to Jesus, is another line. Mesmerized by cleavage, I won't come to Jesus. It's this kind of like this person who's just really fighting getting old and wants to do something to mess it all up and make people pay attention to them, because as people get old, they become invisible.
Well, coming to the music, there's a wonderful, like, almost breakbeat going through this, and it's so on the front foot, this song. I bet you can't wait to play this live.
Yeah, Saul playing drums on that one. He's a frustrated drummer, so any opportunity he gets behind the drum kit and bashes things out. So he'll be very pleased that we're talking about that one. And I think he'll probably want to play drums live as well. I don't know how practical that is, but I think he probably will want to. It's just kind of a mad, fast, punky little pop song. Again, great fun, and should be great live as well. Again, lots of tempo.
I'm aware of time, so I'm gonna rattle on. So track 10 is Hey, and we're gonna come back now to. And of course, it'll mean nothing because you've not heard the album, but a brief inquiry into online relationships. You have to listen to. There's so many things that you've said made me think, oh my God, you'll really love this record. And fellow Mancunian band of the next generation, if you like. There's a lovely line in one of their songs. It's called "Love It If We Made It," and Matty says, "Truth is only hearsay," and there's such a link between that, and I think, what was your line? It was something like "belief is stronger than truth" or something like that. It was how are you?
And don't wave your facts in my face.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you're basically on board the same train, but you were they were in the first carriage and you're in a couple of carriages behind them.
Great. I mean, Hey Hey lyrically is about conspiracy theories, and it's fascinating. People go, I don't subscribe to conspiracy theory, but and then they tell you their conspiracy theory, or the bit that they. And the thing about conspiracy theory is there are conspiracies. Government had clearly conspired not to tell us certain information all over the place, dotted all over history. So the actual emotional impulse to go, there's a conspiracy, is true, but unfortunately there's so much disinformation out there, it's really hard to discern what is a truth and what is disinformation. It's been a CIA tool to actually, if people get close to the truth, you put out alternating theories, leave clues and evidence just to throw them off the scent so that no one's sure what's going on.
That's what Putin's been doing for years.
And what happens, every government, KGB.
They've been inspired by that. Our lot have been inspired by that.
And now we are hitting AI with deep fakes where our sense of reality is about to disappear completely, because we will have no clue what is real and what isn't anymore with deep fakes coming. And, is this song by a human? Is it by a machine? Is this book by a human? Is it by a machine? We're about to enter, we think we're in a hall of mirrors right now, but we're about to enter a kaleidoscope. So it's going to become very difficult to find our rudder in this world.
That Kennedy was bumped off and move on. To Butterfly. We're almost landing the jet now. This is the penultimate. I've kept you for more than I deserve. What vivid storytelling at the beginning. I feel with this record like it's the more tender moments where it really is allowed to shine and find, and really hit here in the heart. And you've got in the pattern of great crescendos. Here's another one,
and a journey song, a song that travels.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is. I mean, basically, it's one of those mad ones that the Jam had lots and lots of sections. So it was kind of like, how do we kind of get some kind of thread? And Saul pieced this one together, and I think he basically just left it part A, part B, part C, part D, just kind of off into the sunset, really. We haven't tried playing this as a band yet. I think we will do at some point. I think we will do with all of them, but I think this could be a bit of a head scratcher at moments. But we'll see. I love it. I mean, for me, as bass-wise, it's complex. There's loads of different basses on, and there's even one that's out of tune, or stupidly out of tune, a bass, which, how the hell I'm supposed to play that in the middle of the song, I don't know. So personally, I need at least another bass player, at least one bass player to help, if not several. But it's a great tune, and I love it, and a lot of people love it as well. And I think it's that thing of, with the Journey songs, you finish and go, what was all that about? I want to listen to it again. Because it's kind of, you don't get the repetition, you want to go back and work your way through the song again, and I think that's one of its real strengths.
Hardest lyric to write on the record, took me weeks. I was trying to do a real narrative story about a guy who picks up a hitchhiker, and she's only in his life for a very short period, but she leaves an indelible imprint. It took me a long time to write this one.
Well, it's vivid now that it's there. It's really.
I'm a frustrated storyteller, basically.
As a film writer,
novelist.
So wow. Okay, so we come to Folks, which you mentioned before. This is magnificent. Really, what a great finale song. I love the production. I love the wibbly wobbly beginning. I'm sorry to keep mentioning it, but it's so 1975, and I mean very complimentary. I can imagine it at the Royal Albert Hall with an orchestra, with a choir. I mean, it's just, I'm almost getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
This one Jim worked on with his brother and just did an amazing job.
Yeah, my brother Peter, I work with him when we do the demos. Kind of got a close working relationship with him, and I had this kind of, I didn't have a concept for the song, but I loved the song, I loved the bits that we'd got on the Jam, so I sent them to him and said, just see what you think, do you like this one, should we work on it? And he got back in touch with me and said, I imagine it sounding like a 1950s song broadcast from outer space. And I'm going, I've no idea what that means, but brilliant. Let's do it. And that's what he did. It's almost like you're tuning in a radio, and there's this, so it's little bits of things, lots of bits of distortion, little bits of vocal coming in, almost as if they're different songs.
Yes.
But it's kind of wrapped up in the familiarity and the warmth of a 1950s song as well.
Yes.
So it's a little bit sci-fi.
And there's a wobble or a flange or something to it.
Exactly, yeah. A little bit off kilter, a little bit going
Yeah.
in phase and out of phase.
I love that.
Yeah,
it sounds so good. And there was, gosh, it's such a lovely way to leave the listener and, show them this is a journey. This is how we want to leave you. And there was a line that really hit home for me. And it was, I think, a beautifully angled reference to All You Need Is Love.
Ah, very good. Yeah, my favourite joke in the song, in the album, is I sing universe means one song. It's a Beatles one.
Exactly, the world
and
needs.
And then I said to Leo, can you then get like the kind of brass that's on A Day in the Life and make so we can have a hint of a Beatles song afterwards? It's kind of like my favourite musical joke in there. It's one of my favourite songs on the album. And it will be the most neglected. It's the last song. I wrote the lyric in 2 jams, which is really rare. I got the whole lyric in in about 20 minutes tops, and it just fell. To me it sounded like a 1950s torch song through psychedelics. And so it's got this kind of and I love what they've done on the production of this kind of you think you've found your footing, and then suddenly the ground's disappeared and the room's spinning, and it's really about death. Folks, it's time to go. Death's a fixture. Go and kiss her. It's about acceptance of death. And I have this thing, you probably know, that I often write a lyric and then it will come true when the album comes out, and so I try not anymore to write any dangerous lyrics where it can endanger my life.
Yeah.
And the day I sang this song, this first song I sang on the album, finished the lyrics so quickly I'll sing it. I got on an Uber to come home, and in the Uber texting, absorbed in my mobile phone, and suddenly the Uber just hits the car in front at about 2 miles an hour, and I look up and we're in the parking lane and we've hit a parked car. And I say to the guy, what's going on? And he turns around and looks at me and then slumps forward onto the steering wheel. And I go, holy cow, he's having a stroke or a heart attack. I've just sung the song about death.
Oh my God.
And I jump out into the traffic and open this door, and he's drenched from head to foot, and he falls further onto the steering wheel. And I've got my hand on his heart, and he's still alive, and I'm ringing the ambulance, and I'm like going, you're not going to die on my watch. It's I see an ambulance come, it gets within a quarter of a mile of me and goes the wrong way.
Yeah.
And the guy comes round and he's like, what's happened? And I'm like, it's okay, mate. You've had an accident, you're okay, and talk to him. And he comes around a bit more and he's like, oh, I'll lose my job at Uber, you mustn't tell Uber, and I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna tell anyone, it's okay. And I check where he's bumped the car and there's no mark, so I get him to reverse up. He's really coming around okay, and I say, what's gone on? He says, I've had an allergic reaction to eating Sharon fruit. and I'm like, well, and he said, I don't need an ambulance. I said, I'm sorry, I thought you'd gone. An ambulance is coming, we're checking you out first.
I thought I'd killed you with a lyric.
Officer,
I think I've killed this man.
I cursed him with a song. I'm so sorry.
Well, the Sharon fruit thing's far too specific to be a lie.
And we get him in the ambulance, and his brother comes to drive me home, and the brother's driving me home, and he says, well, after 50, we're all in Sniper's Alley. Which I thought, that's the missing lyric to that song. I want that line, It was like, and he was fine the next day. A guy rang me up, was so sweet, and, he was fine. An allergic reaction to Sharon fruit.
Caripiriton.
And it was astonishing. It was like, I've had allergic reactions. I've had allergic reaction where I've passed out, but that was that was like
It's extreme. Though.
extreme.
Whew, well, phew. Okay, and on that note, actually,
on that
on that
joyful
bombshell.
on that joyful note, that he
poor
survived
man.
and he's happy.
Exactly.
And he's still got his job. God bless him.
Yeah, there
We
you
love
go.
him.
There's the the payoff for this record. It's everything's going to be okay. I have to ask you. I mentioned my dear friend and Uber producer, executive producer of the show, Mick Meadows. And if you ask him, and I was the DJ. He asked me to be a DJ at his wedding, and his first song as a married man was By You, and I had 2 copies of Sit Down, one on each turntable, so I could just take the first 4 bars and just loop them and just go from one to the other while they journeyed, so that the lovely little, I guess maybe soul guitar lick just as they hit the dance floor happened. So this is a man who absolutely worships you. And I said, you've got to. So what do you want to know? Can I ask James a question on your behalf? And he said, and I'm going to actually add to this, he said, and I'm sorry this has got to be for you, Tim, what's the best lyric you've ever written? He said. But I think there's two different questions here, which is, what's the best lyric and what's your favourite lyric? Because those are 2 completely different things, and I can put that to you as well. God. It's really hard, isn't it? It's like choosing a limb.
And also, when you make songs, they're your babies, and so you tend to gravitate to the babies that get the least attention rather than the singles.
Fair enough.
There are songs like Ring the Bells that we never get bored of playing live. And it didn't do particularly well in the charts compared with many of the bigger ones. Never give up on that one. Sometimes is a massive one, and the chorus of Sometimes is one of those lyrics where you go, oh, that is right. Everybody has that experience of looking in someone's eyes and believing they're looking into someone's soul. And so it's kind of so universal, so obvious, yet I don't think it had been sung before. So that's a kind of a big one for me. I know people go, if I hadn't seen such riches, I could live with being poor. I like Universe Means One Song. It's a Beatles one.
Yes. Yes.
Nothing But Love is hilarious and funny as a love song. I think it's wonderful, the lyric on that. I like your speaky ones like Monsters and Heroes and Men, and the one off All the Colours of You, about the
Wherever It Takes Us.
Yes, Wherever It Takes Us.
Those kind of songs, there's certain songs where there's a license for me to be really poetic. Of Monsters and Heroes and Men is one where I went, oh, I can really stretch out on this one and make it a poem. And then Wherever It Takes Us on the last album, I can get a narrative going and really do a poem. And
it's a really interesting area, isn't it?
It's real fun. It brings out the writer in me.
Well, let's for such an emotional record, let's end emotionally by asking Chloe, what's the lyric? No, I think this is an easy one for you to answer. Of all the lyrics that you sing now, what's the one that almost is the hardest to sing because you're fighting tears?
Gosh.
What's the lyric that you connect with emotionally the most on this record?
On this record?
Yeah. So many.
Better With You, I think.
Yeah.
You're making me teary, Eddie. So it's not fair.
Well, I mean, they are
but
in a way. You are.
It's for me. It's symbolic of joining this band. I absolutely feel my life's become better. So to end on a positive note, that's what I associate it with, and therefore.
And we
feel
the same, so that works out. Are you playing bass on that one?
I am not.
Oh, good.
Am I? No.
Because
we've not got that far.
Because now she's playing bass on some songs, we can't look at each other while we're singing, and that one we'll be able to look at each other while we're singing. It would be really fabulous.
Fun. Yeah.
Guys, it was lovely to see you. I've had you for more than I deserve. It was lovely to see you. Those are the best trousers I've seen all year, also, and the best smile that I've seen all year too.
Real pleasure. Really lovely interview. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome.
Virgin Radio.